What if you had a really old computer from 2008? What would be the best operating system for it? Windows? Linux? Which version? Well, let's figure it out. So this is a Dell Optiplex, but look how small it is. Tiny, tiny Dell Optiplex. I bought this, I think, 4 years ago for $50. I didn't know what it was back then. I wasn't making videos back then. I was just buying it to sell because I thought little computers were worth a lot of money. But there's something that makes this not worth money, and that is this. Intel Atom. I forgot what that was, and if you recall, Intel Atom is probably one of the worst processors of all time. It's super slow. It's what they used to use in netbooks back in the day. This particular model is a 160, Optiplex 160. It came out in 2008. I did use it for a couple of days, and it was just so terrible that I threw it in the closet, and I tried to sell it. I tried to sell it for $100 back then $80, then $60. I think the last time I posted it was for $40. And then eventually I sold the hard drive out of it, and I took the memory out for another computer, and then it's just been sitting there doing nothing all this time. So I did at one point, I think maybe 2 years ago, put an SSD in it, which is this one. And then I put in 2 gigs of memory. This is DDR2. So this was the only memory I could find. It was from a Dell XPS. But see, the fins here, when they're installed, you can't close the cover. So I did try it with the SSD in Windows 10. It was still slow. And so I just gave up on the whole project. And I don't know what to do with it at this point. So since I'm kind of on this kick of going back through my old hardware and trying to get rid of it and make a couple of videos out of it, I thought I would revisit this and put Linux on it and see if that would help. But first, let's take a look at the design. So this was advertised as a thin client. And let's see how this comes off. Such. I'm not sure if it qualifies as a thin client because I thought thin clients didn't really have storage in them. Because it's so small, they actually had the option to have a stand. You could put it on like this. There's a wall mounting thing here, a VESA mount. And also I remember there's a monitor stand for this where you could put it behind the monitor. If you remember, if you went to a doctor or a dentist or something and they would have this little computer on the cart, it was kind of something like this. So it didn't really do much. It just would run one application and that's it. So this was the original configuration. I had this like this, 2 gigs of memory, and then I had an SSD. This is a different one. And this is a fanless setup, which I always thought was interesting. I always have dreamed of having a computer with no fans in it, which this is, but unfortunately it's too slow. So the processor is an Intel Atom 330 1.6 gigahertz, and I think it's under here. And I didn't know much about it until just yesterday. I did some research. And so it's actually 2 processors on one chip. If you were to take this off, there's 2 physical actual processors here. It has a little power supply. I did find this on Amazon, so there's 2 gigs each. Only $8 for both. Brand new. So now there's 4. But in the testing videos you'll see after this, I did those before. It had the 2 gigs in it. And then, so the original configuration, this is just kind of flopping here. Let's look at the setup here. So when this was originally available, it came with a hard drive. I remember I had the hard drive here. There's a little cage that went here, and there was a little fan for the hard drive, which plugs in, I think, there. I don't know where that is anymore. I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere. But it does, whenever I turn it on, it says the fan is missing, so it gives me an error message every time. This is the spot for the Wi-Fi card. And then the Wi-Fi would go out here, and there was this big antenna that was available as an option. And then the SATA plugs in here. It's the SATA. Now you'll hear me mention that there's only 1 SATA port in the later part of the video, but actually there's 2. I found the original manual for this computer, and it turns out that this is a SATA port. But why is it up? So I've seen a picture of this. So I thought the Wi-Fi plugged in here, but the Wi-Fi plugs in here. And this was available with a hard drive or a 64 gigabyte SSD or a 20 gigabyte SSD, which goes here. And I saw a picture of this. It's like this little card that plugs in here, and it goes this way, like to right here. And I think that's what that screw is for here. And I thought that was the Wi-Fi. When I saw the picture of it, I think it was on eBay or something a long time ago. But that's actually for a hard drive. And then it said also there was a combination available. So I think you could get the SSD 20 gig to boot from, and then you would have the hard drive as a secondary. It would always have to have a hard drive, right? Because it has the fan. So I think that it was 20 gigs here and then the hard drive. And it originally came with Windows 7. And it has the key right here. It's Windows 7 Pro. So I'm not sure what it would be used for. Like I said, it's probably medical, office sort of things. Here's the back. VGA DPI, serial port, 4 USB. Pretty simple. So yeah, so my idea here was to install Linux Mint on it and see if it's better than Windows 10. The reason why I never made a video about this before is, number one, it's boring as hell. But 2, I thought this was a 32-bit processor. I don't know why I thought that. And so I never really wanted to bother with a 32-bit processor. But it's actually a 64-bit processor. So that means, I mean, you could probably put Windows 11 on this, but that might just make the computer explode. As far as heat goes, I had it running all day yesterday. This gets kind of hot right here. This not so much. I think this is the chipset. It's kind of not on there well. I would assume at this point it probably needs new thermal paste. This gets kind of warm, but not hot. The processor only uses 8 watts of power. This power supply is, I have no idea. But my thinking was, you know, make this into like a little file server, right? Put a hard drive in here or here and have it be like a little file server kind of thing. The thing is, that was a long time ago, and at this point, that's not necessary. I mean, I have an external 5 terabyte hard drive. Why would I have a whole thing for remote access? I don't need remote access to files. And there's no space for hard drives anyway. So here was my plan. I just came up with this morning. I thought you could only put one hard drive in here. But since there is 2 spots for a SATA, I found on Amazon an extension that would plug in here. And without the cage, there's actually enough space for 2 drives. So that's perfect. So you could have both here. Maybe like a 500 gigabyte laptop hard drive or something to keep stuff on. I don't know. But the thing is, the hard drive would be loud. So maybe just 2 of these like this. One goes here, one goes here. This has the Mint on it, which I installed. This has Windows 10, which, I mean, it's so slow. When you try to use, you click on something and then you hope and pray that it opens, you know, before you die, because it takes forever. Anything that you do on this, the CPU utilization goes to 100%, like immediately. So we'll see. Anyway, stay tuned, stick around. I'm going to show you the Linux Mint installation and how that went. And then we're going to see if we can try to maybe play an old game on this, like a really old game, and see if that works. But it looks cool anyway. I like this, the grill. Just no fans. You turn it on, it makes no sound whatsoever. I just wish it was faster. All right, we'll be back for the Linux installation. Stay around. So let's see, install Linux Mint alongside Windows 10, erase all disks. Okay, let's do that one, because this is only a 120 gigabyte SSD. It is a very old and slow processor, but I wonder if it's good enough just to run, for example, like a Nintendo emulator, and just have it be like a little game box sort of thing. So I'm going to try that. Problem is, in order to do that, you have to have Windows, I think. I don't know if you can emulate on Mint or not. Maybe you can. If it could be a little emulator, that would be fun. But I wonder, an Atom processor, what's that equivalent to? You could probably get away with Super Nintendo, I would think. I mean, technically, if it did Nintendo, Sega, Super Nintendo, and Genesis, you could, in theory, have probably about 300 games on there. So that would be interesting. So I think at the end, depending on how long this takes, we will plug the Windows drive back in and just see if it'll run a game or two. Okay, so now it's installed. Linux Mint XCFE. It kind of looks like the other Linux Mint. I did not disable the graphical features yet. This is just the fresh install. It actually takes a minute and a half to boot, which is strange. So let's see how much memory. Let's see, where do we check that? Oh, there it is, Task Manager. Okay, so we're using 41% of the memory. It's about the same. It was 0.8 on Windows, 0.7 on here. The thing is, the CPU is much less. So this was 75% before on the Windows. So the memory is the same, but the CPU is much less. Let's try this. 100% now. Struggling. Man, this processor is just terrible. I almost wonder if you were to make this a file server, if you would just have like a sort of a command line version of Linux instead of this. Because there's really no reason, once it's all set up, there's really no reason to have a graphical interface. I assume that at some point it will settle down, you know, once it does all the things. But I thought it would be faster, and it's really not. Not yet, anyway. I don't know, maybe there's some drivers. Hey, we made it. So, here's what happened. If you'll notice, the screen is very different now. Basically, I put Windows 10 on the SSD and I put the Linux. And remember, I said it was very slow regardless. So what happened is, even though I've tried this several times, I never actually used the computer, if that makes sense. I would just install something and then take it all apart. What happened is, I assumed that this had onboard graphics, you know, like the Intel HD thing. It does not. This actually has an SIS GPU in it. And so if you go into Windows 10, there's no driver for it. It's an SIS Mirage 3, which is basically a laptop GPU, I guess. And that makes sense because this is a laptop CPU. So basically this whole thing is a laptop in a desktop form. Okay. So I received my extension that I told you about, the SATA extension. So I said, okay, well, I couldn't make the SIS work in Windows 10. I tried and tried and tried. I spent hours. I feel really terrible now because I spent so many hours on this for no reason. And so I said, okay, well, I have the Windows 7 hard drive that I just posted in the last video from the Pentium 4. So I'll plug that in and I'll boot from that, because as far as I know, Windows 7 has the correct driver for the SIS GPU. That did not work because the onboard thing for the SATA does not have enough power to power a 3.5-inch hard drive. So, which is weird, but okay. So then I put the 3.5-inch hard drive in my USB enclosure, and I figured, well, I'll just boot from the USB enclosure via USB, get into Windows 7 and try it that way. Well, that didn't work either. For some reason, it just would load and load and load, and it wouldn't do anything. So, what I did was I had this Windows 7 USB stick, right? So I said, okay, I'll just install Windows 7 on the SSD. This is not Windows 7. So for some reason, it's Vista, even though it says Windows 7. So then I had to make a Windows 7 USB installer, installed Windows 7 on the SSD, and now it works. And as you can see, the resolution is correct. And now it's actually normal. Although I can't get online yet. And then, so I was able to install the SIS driver, which I had. So everything works, sort of. Although because it's 32-bit, now I can only see 3 gigabytes of memory on the board, which is fine. It's okay. And so I can't get online, and I had no sound. No, I have USB speakers, but I had no sound before, so I couldn't figure that out, and somebody said to uninstall the sound drivers and then plug it back in, and now it works. So now I have sound, and I have Windows 7, and now I can do this. Okay. So this is as far as I could get on this. So I have the option of basically I can install, I have Firefox, the ESR version, that should let me get online. But I can do this, which is fun. Let's see. Do I have sound? No sound. Thought I had sound. Well, I can load Nintendo ROMs, but now there's no sound again. Where's the sound? Shoot. This was just working a minute ago. Maybe that one just doesn't have sound. Let's see, options, sound, speakers, okay. Open. This was just working. Nintendo ROMs. Maybe that one doesn't have sound. Let's try something else. No sound. Oh, there it is. Okay. So there is sound. Sort of. I guess there's no sound in the actual startup part. Let's see, let's try this. Now, I really want to try it, SNES, Super Nintendo, but for some reason, when I load that emulator, it doesn't do anything. It just kind of sits there. So let's load the best Nintendo game of all time here. Actually, Mega Man would be fun. But let's do Super Mario 2. Let's see, Super Mario. Where is it? Anyway, so that works. So we're in now. Question is, if we were to upgrade this to Windows 8 or Windows 10, would the driver stick? So I have Windows 8 and Windows 10 32-bit drives here. So I think, because, I don't know, I'm debating on which one I should do. I might just go 8 because I'm pretty sure 8 will work. If I put Windows 10 on there, it might break again, but we'll see. So we'll get back to you on that. But anyway, it works. It's still really slow, but it actually works, and basically it's just a little Nintendo emulator at this point. So it's kind of a failed project. You can't really make a server out of this, I don't think. Although, I guess, technically a file server wouldn't really need a graphics driver. I was just wanted to play the games. Also, I put this on here because...
Next up, the Oregon Trail! Next up, the Oregon Trail!
Because we like Oregon Trail. It's free anyway. It's still fun though because there's no fans on this.
Thursday, April 6, 1848. We arrived in Independence by steamboat. We're on our way out west to meet our pa in Oregon.
There she goes, back to St. Louis. There's no turning back now.
Yippee! Let's get a wagon and get started.
Oh, Jimmy, Parker, are you sure? It's 2,000 miles to where Pa is, through deserts and mountains.
Oh my.
Yep, and rivers and valleys,
Yeah, and buffaloes and coyotes
and mountain lions.
and rattlesnakes and...
And brothers, I'm just as brave as you think you are, but this is no joke.
Quit worrying, Cassie. Pa sent a mountain man to guide us.
And we've got to find him.
Right.
Come on. Next stop, the Oregon Trail.
Anyway, we'll see you next time, and I'll let you know what happened.